Oh, I can't hear you.
Hello and welcome
Oh,
to the back catalog listening party. We'll try it a second time. Welcome. My name is Anthony Ihrig, one of your hosts. Our other host, Ellen Stanley, aka Mother Banjo, unfortunately can't be with us today. She had a family obligation, but we're super excited to welcome to the show from Westchester County, New York, Julia Douglas. Everyone. Oh my gosh, they are excited to see you today, Julia. Julia? How are you?
I am well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
we're, we're excited to have you, and it looks like some other folks are excited joining the party right on time. Alan Hastings says, "Happy Friday, everybody!" 102 in the shade. I believe down in Texas. That is hot. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Good advice, Alan. Welcome. And our friend Connie from Richfield, Minnesota, is here. Hey, Connie, nice to see you. And Joe's checking in from South Minneapolis. How's it going, Joe? Good to see you as well. And Mr. Jetner, Chris Jetner, looking forward to a happy back catalog listening party music hour, enjoying a couple flavors from Utapils Brewing in the 84-degree heat. That sounds like a good way to beat the heat, Chris. And for those of you who are new to the show, this is our weekly musical happy hour. We sit down with some of our favorite artists and listen to music from their back catalog and enjoy a tasty beverage or a snack because it is Friday afternoon and that is what we do. So if you're out there, let us know what you're drinking. I am drinking a Paulaner Hefeweizen all the way from Germany in my fancy back catalog listening party pint glass, which will be shipping out to our Patreon supporters soon. We'll talk more about that later. Julia, how about you? Are you enjoying anything on this Friday afternoon?
Well, I am a two-fisted drinker today, so in honor of our friends in Texas, yes, I am hydrating, hydrate, hydrate,
Nice.
and then I also have coffee, so that
Excellent.
because
Kind of maybe
I'm addicted.
negating the hydration. I don't know how that works.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad that you're here on the show, and we're going to be revisiting your 2014 release, Black Watch Kilt, and we're excited to get into that. But before we do, if you could just give folks just a brief background on how you got started in music and kind of what led up to this album in your musical career.
Oh, yes, I'd be happy to. So I started in music, I think in fourth grade. I played the French horn in band, and then I just never quit the French horn. I just continued, and then I majored in the French horn at the University of Minnesota, and then I went to graduate school on the East Coast and still in the French horn, getting my
Nice.
master's.
All
And then,
right.
yeah, I just was fixated on the French horn. And then I also played in the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra from 1985 to
Wow.
1987, second French horn. And then after I graduated, um, I guess when I was at conservatory in the East Coast, I kind of went, yeah, maybe I should stop playing the French horn. So, yeah, it was kind of not going to happen, it was for many reasons, but I started, I was more of a creative spirit. I became a bit of a goofball and I hung out with the composers more, even though I was not a
Mm.
composer. So I started writing little goofy stuff, exercises in theory class, and not. It just seemed like that was maybe a better fit. Was I took a songwriting class, and
Mm.
that was fun. And so then I just moved to New York City and just started to write songs and do open mics. I really didn't know what I was doing at all, but I got gigs. People liked it. And so it was just a better fit. So I had a secretary job by day, and then at night, I was out and about, just kind of trying to
Excellent.
figure out how to write a song and seeing if people would shut up and listen to me. So that's what
This is
happened.
out east
So,
now, when
yeah,
this
this
was
was in New
happening?
York City. Yeah, all New
Okay.
York City. Yeah, so I moved to New York, and I just started to write songs. So then this is my fourth album that we're going to listen to today. And as we were saying earlier, I went back to Minneapolis for a few years, 2010 to 2014, and I finished these songs in Minneapolis. And
Hmm.
I kind of didn't really have a life in Minneapolis, of course, anymore. I'd moved away and been gone for like 20 years, and
Yeah.
so I had no friends and it was really cold, and so I could finish my songs. And
Oh,
and
okay.
so
That gave you
then
the opportunity to finish this album. I love
yes,
that.
it was horribly the weather was horrible, and I didn't know anyone, and I just finished songs. I had no friends, and that's a great place to be when you're trying to finish something. So
All
then
right. The
I
secret
needed
to finishing
friends.
songs is
Yes, just move somewhere. And then I needed friends after that. So then I hired musicians to play my songs, and then I got friends like, Ellen and
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
for
So
those, yeah, there's a little spoiler alert. Ellen is might not be on the show with us live today, but she's with us on the record, as well
she
as her
is.
husband Ben Cookfeld. So
Yes,
um,
they became my friends. I hired them and paid them money, and they are not my friends now, and they're on this record. So that's kind of what happened. It was like it's
why
great being a musician. You always get friends.
That's right. Well, it especially here in Minneapolis. Oh, Joni says, "Great commercial for Minneapolis." Laugh out loud emoji. Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of great art that happens here in the Twin Cities,
The
and
music scene is amazing. That was all
it,
my friends were musicians. They were great, and none
could
of
it
them were
have something to
classical
do with the
musicians.
weather and in the dark and the cold and the time we have on our hands from
A lot of
November to
time.
March?
Yeah, we practice and practice, and, that's what happened. It was a really great experience. But the first year was tough. I mean, Minnesotans are very insular, and they have their friends, like they're done.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
"Hi." And they're like, "Goodbye, we don't care, and
yeah.
it's really cold out. Leave us alone." But then, it's more like, "What can you bring to the table?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll do a show and I'll hire people and I'll do a concert series." And then everybody came because they were so
'Cause,
cold, there was nothing to do. So then I got all these friends.
we
So
love good art here in the Twin
they
Cities.
do, they love music. They love
But I want to
music,
circle
yeah.
back real quick and ask, you were talking about being, involved in the French horn, and you're in the symphony, and
Oh,
you're doing all this stuff, in school. Um, when you were out east and started getting into songwriting and stuff, did you fall into like a folk crowd? Like what? How did that work?
mm.
Because I think that is usually a part of it too. Is that were there certain acts you were following or other musicians you were kind of teaming up with out there, or did you just kind of go out
Mm.
on your own?
I just did it. I mean, I was a horrible snob coming from the conservatory classical world, so I
Hmm.
was quite fearless, even though I was pretty terrible and couldn't even really play guitar. But I just was kind of a snob and thought, oh, these guys are just meatheads. And so I would just get up there. They're like, who is this? So they
Now,
were
yeah,
really
I'm
great
assuming
to
you didn't
me.
get up there with the French horn.
No, no, I would borrow their guitar. I'd say, "Oh,
Okay.
can I borrow your guitar?" They're like, "I guess. Who are you?" I mean, they were really open. They were great. They were just great. The music community in New York was amazing, and they were wonderful to me. And yeah, I was a classical player. I just thought, oh, how hard can this be? They're doing like three chords and it's 2 minutes long. I know I can do that. But of course, now I've been trying to do it for 25 years. I'm like, oh, I think it is actually a lot harder than that. But at the time, so I just got up there. Look, I wasn't headlining CBGBs or anything like that. I
Sure.
just kind of any stage there was, I would just kind of do it. And
Oh, good for you.
people were great. They just thought it was a hoot. Everyone was doing it. Everyone's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing either. We would just try stuff. And it was wonder again. I moved there, I have no friends. And then I don't know, I just sort of started playing music with then
And
people are like,
friends,
hey.
right?
Yes, I mean, the
Yeah.
bad thing is they're musicians. I can't have everything, but they were wonderful. They were wonderful to me, and I've been
Well,
doing it ever since.
Christopher has a question here. He was wondering if you compose on the piano at all.
I am starting to.
I think he
I
sees the
am a little
piano
bit.
behind you there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm starting to. My newer stuff, my next album will definitely have some piano tunes on it. So, yeah, a little
Excellent.
bit.
Well, thanks for that question, Chris. And if you have questions for Julia, we'd love to hear them. This is really a conversation, and it's an excuse for all of us kind of music nerds to ask about songwriting and the process and recording and all those things. So I want you to think about those questions as we listen to some music, but it's definitely time to get right into it. The first track we have lined up today is a track called As the Crow Flies. Is there anything you want to say about this before we listen to the song?
Well, this is my classical chops. The influence is definitely there on this one. So the verse I pretty much lifted from a Schubert piano trio because I was watching this movie called The Hunger with I don't know if you know it, but it's with David Bowie and Catherine
Mm,
Deneuve and Susan Sarandon,
mm-mm.
and it's this very stylized movie where they are vampires in the '80s in New York City, and they're classical musicians. It's an amazingly ridiculous movie, but they
I'm writing
play
it
this.
down here. I'm writing.
You've
We'll
got
add
to
this to
see
the
it.
show notes. The Hunger. All right.
It's The Hunger. So I'm watching The Hunger, and they're a trio, a classical trio. David Bowie plays cello, and I don't know, Susan, I don't know what she plays, but they play this Schubert piano trio, and it's stunningly beautiful. I mean, they're in the movie. And I thought, what is that track? So I always loved that melody. And I said, I'm going to take that. I'm going to do something with that. And so I did.
Mm,
And so the verse is that, but then the rest of it is more pop and rock. The chorus and the bridge, is not Schubert. But so this I like this because it took me like 20 years to write this. I mean, it was
mm.
really hard to incorporate so much stuff. But I think Andy Thompson, producer, shout out there in Minneapolis, he did an amazing job with the arrangement, and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Excellent. Well, let's give it a listen. This is Julia Douglas as the Crow Flies here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It's not nice and neat, don't go down Main Street or bother with the boulevard. I'm blacktop 2 miles, don't take a left on gravel. The sun in your eyes, 'cause you've got love as the crow flies. The upcoming exhibit of Quaker quilts. You can't wait to tell him your step has a lilt. It's not an affair. You think with a laugh it's just that your real life husband doesn't like crafts. As the crow flies.
Julia Douglas as The Crow Flies from her 2014 release Black Watch Kilt here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And wow, that sounded fantastic, Julia. And I could hear some of those classical influences for sure, and instrumentation here. Was that a cello that I heard there?
Yeah, Dan Lewan was playing cello. Oh, he sounded amazing. And background singer Jeremy Messersmith, the great
Ah,
Jeremy Messersmith, is
a
playing
former guest
singing
here. That's great.
backing vocals. So that was a treat. Everybody was great. It was really it was a thrill for me to when it all came together because I'd had it since the '80s, tried to write that song, and finally 2000. If you hang in there,
Yeah.
kids, 2014 it finally happened. So I
That's
was
awesome.
really
People were
thrilled.
loving this. Joni says, I love that chorus, cello. Yes, we just talked about that. Goosebumps in the best way. And I have to see a movie with Bowie and Susan Sarandon. Yes,
And
agreed, Joni.
Catherine
Nice.
Deneuve, the three of them. Yeah, it's this crazy movie. You've got to see it.
I can't wait. And Joe says, a somber tone, but then there's, it's not your fault, Walt, it's your gestalt. Love it, he says. The rhyming wit of, say, Noel Coward.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Well, thank you.
that's a great comment, but it does actually, it kind of points out this idea of like that there's a lot of thought, obviously, that you've put into both the music and the words. And so while we're on that topic, I'm curious about like lyrics for you. Is that something like where are you a writer as well? Do you write fiction, nonfiction? Is that where does the kind of the lyric side of your songwriting come from?
Well, I think when I was in graduate school on the East Coast, and it was very apparent to me, the New York Philharmonic would not be calling anytime soon to have hire me. I started to write fiction there, and then that seemed to I wrote these crazy stories, and they were published in the school paper, and then people were like, "Oh, these are great!" That was so fun, to meet people from a creative effort instead of just playing, the second French horn part, one of
Hmm.
multitudes. So I started to write stories and I enjoyed that. But the isolation was so painful. I mean, that lifestyle for me was just horrible. So,
Mm.
but then I started to write lyrics and then I combined the music and the lyrics. And then that seemed like I enjoyed that a lot. So then I just, I love lyrics. I just love them. I read Noel Coward, Oscar Wilde, Stephen Sondheim, Bob Dylan, of course. Who else? Those English guys. An American guy, Cole Porter. Cole Porter, of
Mm.
course, the best of the best, the best. So
Yeah,
I love all those those guys from way back. They
very
just
cool.
and then, Bob Dylan, but, those are still the people I read all the time. Whenever I got new songs to write, I just go to the library and I read all those lyrics again, and it's
Interesting.
just so
So
much fun.
not you don't put the necessarily put the album on as much as you like to read the lyrics outside of the music context.
Yeah, I just get their books. Yeah, you can buy books of
Interesting.
their lyrics, and that's what I do.
Yeah, that's a
And I
really
just
fascinating way to consume lyrics. I guess it never dawned on me to separate the two,
Oh,
but
I
I think
always
you
do
probably
because I get so distracted, the music, I'll be listening to I'll do the chords, I miss it. It's too much is happening, so I just get the
yeah, I'll
books
have
of
to give
lyrics.
that a try.
Oh, yeah,
And
and
speak
just go to the library and just hunker down, and you'll come up with some stuff you would never have come up with.
Speaking of lyrics, we got a question here from Kathy Douglas, maybe a relation.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, that's my
um,
sister.
I would like to know the
Oh.
backstory about the line in your song about reading your sister's diary and watching her cry hysterically at the dinner table.
Oh, well, sis, that's a different album, so I don't know if I'm allowed to speak of that lyric, but, that's a
All right.
song. Okay, because it's my sister, and when I was first came to New York, I was really poor, and she gave me money. So I will answer this, even though I'm going off track. That's from
It's all
Free
good.
Pancakes. Free Pancakes is a song on my third album called Poor People on TV, and Free Pancakes is on there. And I did indeed put a track that lyric about let's read your sister's diary, quote it back to her and see her cry hysterically at the dinner table. And I thought that was very Cole Porter of me. I was terribly proud of that. And it is true. I did read my sister's diary, and then at dinner I would start
Oh
quoting it
boy.
at the dinner, and she would be very upset. But, what can I say? I was a horrible little sister. And then I was even a more shameless songwriter because I thought that was really funny, and I was gonna put it in a song. What can I say? So that's the
Well,
backstory. That's what happened.
write what you know,
Another
right?
album.
Right. Well,
Exactly.
I'm sure other people out there can relate. That's the beauty of music and art. It's like we can see ourselves in it. Well, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for chiming in, Kathy. If you're out there and have questions for Julia about this record or anything else, maybe anything in her sister's diary, you can chime
Oh,
into
yeah.
the. I'm sorry, just kidding, Kathy. You go jump in the real time chat. This is a conversation, and it's so much fun to hear what you have to say. But I want to get back into the music now. And the next track we have lined up is the title track, Black Watch Kilt. Is there anything you'd like to say about this one before we give it a spin?
Hmm, I guess I don't know, not really. I mean, it's about, a friend of mine who had talked me into moving to New York, who was from Minnesota and lived there. She talked me into moving there, and then so she was a big influence on me. Obviously, I'm like still here, but then she moved back to Minnesota like 6 months later, and then I
Oh,
was all alone. But anyway, she was a really wonderful person, and then she uh, passed away tragically, very suddenly at a young age, and her sister sent me an email to let me know. And so the lyrics are from that email that she sent me. So again, once again, I'm stealing from people, but what can I say? So this is about my friend Carol, and this is how I found out she had left us.
Julia Douglas, Black Watch Kilt here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Sorry to let you know this way. Didn't have your number, something happened today. We couldn't find a black watch killed for her, so she's wearing navy blue. I remember visiting the two of you at Middlebrook Hall. Never knew what you'd be up to. After class, you both the same, dancing around till you're so vain. Wearing navy blue. Little Annie found her by the stairs. We think 500 people will be there. She'll be laid to rest at the fort, you know, the one by the airport. Wearing navy blue. We've looked and looked for it everywhere. Black watch kilt is what we now should wanna wear. But we're running out of time. Really hope she doesn't mind. She's way. She's navy blue.
Julia Douglas with Black Watch Kilt here on the back catalog listening party. And that was powerful, is what I was going to say at the same time. That knowing that these were the words of a family relation writing to you about this, that is really, really powerful. Now, did you, add anything to what she had written as you put this together to kind of bring the feeling
Yes.
together for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I did. I did, but it's pretty much the gist of it, you know. She didn't write it in, rhyme, So, so
Sure, sure.
I had to then,
You
she
had
could
to
have.
change a few words here, but I was just curious. I
Yeah.
mean, there's just so much detail in
It was
there,
it. That's all in there. That was all
describing
in there. That was
time
it.
and
Yes.
place and
Yep.
location and
Yep.
colors and all of those things,
Yep.
and it was very
Yep.
vivid.
I know. It was an amazing email. There was like one I took one poetic license, on one of the verses, but no, that was pretty much the email, and I hadn't talked to her in years, and she just it said sorry to let you know this way. We didn't have your number. And then, so that is but it was interesting because I my friend Carol, golly, I can't remember. I think she passed away in 2006 or something. And then, songwriters were so terrible. We just write about everything, in the world that's ever happened to us or happened to someone else, just because that's what we do. So I had been trying for years to write this song about my friend Carol. And I wrote 100 songs about my friend Carol. And they were horrible. They were horrible, horrible songs. And I knew they were bad. And
Mm.
I just thought, why can't I get this? And then, once again, I was in Minneapolis, friendless, in a blizzard, looking out at the snow, and I'm just sitting there. And then I just was I said I'm gonna I don't know, I just read the email again, and then it all popped out, and then it all happened at once.
Wow.
I
Well,
wrote the whole thing in like half an hour after 6 years of meandering. So that's what
but you
happened.
found the voice that you needed, and I think,
Finally,
man,
yeah.
the thought that it was, two people sharing something about a mutual someone that you love, that you both love that's really powerful. And Joe agrees. Joe says powerful, exactly the first word that
Mm,
came to mind. And
thank you.
I'm sensing a theme here that sometimes if you don't force it, it just might come to you. It sounds like both of those last songs took a little bit of time,
They took
um,
years. They took years,
but your
but
antenna
eventually.
was on, and
Yeah, well, I just think it's like a muscle, I mean, that's true. You shouldn't force it, but I'm a forcer, I force everything. But I just feel like if I was not forcing it before, it would not have just shown up. I have to put in the pain of forcing and going nowhere year after year for me to suddenly be gifted with, something that kind of falls out of the sky. I don't think it's going to just fall out of the sky if I am not, trying too hard. But, perhaps that's not true. But so far, anyway, that seems to be my uncomfortable process of songwriting. So,
well, if you're enjoying what you're hearing today, we're going to encourage you to head on over to Bandcamp, which is one of our favorite services for artists to be paid for their music. I'm sure, as many of you listening know, you don't get a lot from streaming services, but Bandcamp is a service where the artist gets at least, I believe, 70%. And once a month gets 100%. And Julia has this EP on sale right now for $4, but Bandcamp allows you to pay what you want, and so you could put more in there. It's at juliadouglas.bandcamp.com, and we talked before the show that Julia still has physical copies of this CD as well. So if you would like a physical copy of it, there it is. She's showing off here. I'll make it nice and big. It's a beautiful, beautiful art, beautiful picture there. And the liner notes are wonderful, extensive,
oh,
and there's lyrics in there as well. I was able
right.
to look at some of that stuff ahead of time. If you want this in your collection, Julia mentioned that you could just throw $10 at her via Bandcamp, put your address in the notes field, and she will mail you a copy. If you go to the comments, you'll see a link to Julia's juliadouglas.bandcamp.com. But I highly recommend if you're a music nerd like me, that you get the high res version, whether it's the physical CD or the high res digital files, because it sounds fantastic. I mean, the production on this album is top notch. There's a ton of dynamic range. This has become a theme for me on my end. I'm like more of the tech person on the show, and I see like the waveforms of these songs, and sometimes they look like a big rectangle because it's just overly compressed and it's just like one volume for the whole song. But every one of these is telling a story. I can see like how much dynamic range is in each of these songs. And so if you're out there kind of wondering if, is it too quiet? Well, wait, because it's probably going to get louder. And I think that's an amazing part of music production, like this idea that if you were in an orchestra, you would get quiet and then you get loud, and all of those things help tell a story. And in modern music, sometimes everybody wants to be the loudest song on the radio, and you miss out on some of those nuances that can really be moving. A certain part of the song gets lower and higher. And while we're on that topic, Julie, I thought I'd ask you a little bit about the production, how much you're involved with it. Were you sitting down in the control room with the faders and the knobs, like helping making these decisions? Can you tell me how the production piece of this album came together?
Well, I had the really good fortune of calling Andy Thompson, who's a producer in Minneapolis, and he's really, really good. And as evidenced by,
Yeah.
he's a big deal guy. And so we met, and I just said, I want strings, I don't know. I don't even know what I said. I don't even remember. We just didn't want to put too much on it, but I definitely wanted some strings and kind of a classical vibe on some of the songs. But I think it was, I think it was pretty much Andy. I told him what I liked, and that he did. I
So
was like, yeah, that sounds good.
okay.
So
So like he
I
was he was kind of making some of these artistic decisions from a production perspective.
I think so. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
I believe I believe so. I mean, we rehearsed a few times, and we talked a lot about what we wanted, or what I wanted. He really listened. I mean, I was pretty clear. I was like, I want it to be like, a chamber pop thing. I don't want it, that's what I want, and he did
Nice.
it. And he's a crazy talented guy. He's the engineer. He engineered most of it and did the arrangements and led the band and played like half the instruments. I mean, what, the guy's like unbelievable.
Yes, and
And
he's
he's,
got quite a list of credits
I
of
mean,
albums.
rightly so. I mean, I had a blast with him. I had so much fun, and it was just a love. It was just love. It was just fun. It was just lovely, lovely time, but I wrote that song Black Watch, and I sent it to him, and I didn't know him, but I knew of him, of
Mhm.
course. And then he liked the song, and then we went from there. And then we did that track, and then enjoyed working with him so much on Black Watch that I said, well, I have some other songs, let's do them.
Right on.
So there's nothing else to do. It's freezing out, and I don't know
It's
anybody.
freezing,
So
no friends. Yeah.
exactly. Let's make a record, okay?
Can I ask where this one was recorded in the Twin Cities? At one of the studios in
Oh,
town?
yeah, where did we go? Let me see. Sorry, let me see if I have. Well, some of it was in Andy's basement in South Minneapolis in his house. And then we went to, let's see, where else did we go? Do I have it down here? Oh, here it is. We went to the library.
Oh,
Something called
yes.
the library.
Yeah, library is a
Yeah.
studio. I believe we've featured a few records that have been recorded at the library here
Mm-hmm.
over the couple years we've been doing
Yes.
this. So excellent.
And that was fun because we did I think we did Crow Flies, and we did maybe My Boyfriend is a Genius. Well, we did all of it, but I remember we did it live. We each were in a booth, like,
Okay.
playing at the same time. We didn't do like one track and then another track. We didn't do it that way. We did it, we were all playing, So that's so
That's great.
unusual sometimes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
They have a space for that. That is definitely something that, especially these days, you hear less and less of
Hmm.
that just being a
Less and less
possibility.
of.
I think people would like to do it, but to find a place where everybody can,
The
maybe have some sight
library, man,
lines
the
and yeah.
library. We were all, it was crazy. And then and I don't play in a band, I barely play to a metronome. I mean, I just sit, I'm a songwriter. I have my guitar plinking away, and then suddenly I have to be like a pro, I've got I've got these really
You're,
great players. We're at the library. I'm like, oh my lord,
they charge by the
and
hour at these places,
they
right?
charge for that I'm paying for, and I'm like,
Nice.
ah. So
But that's a great way to
that
get it done, and I
it
feel
was
like
great.
it also like there's it's there's a different kind of rhythmic feel often to songs that are recorded live. It's not just lined up to a click track necessarily. Even if there's
I
a click track
know.
going, there might be a little ebb and flow with the
Hmm.
tempos and stuff like that. And Joni agrees here. She says, "I love albums recorded that way. Rare."
It is
Especially these
rare.
days when it's again, I think it's probably more people would do it if they could, but that's a great little tidbit to know that. And well, while we're on the topic, click track, no click track.
Well, I think we did have a click track, but I think, I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Andy. We probably tried to, and I'm sure I screwed it up so much. They just said, okay, never mind. We'll just do the drummer, So our Luke was the click track because, you really need skills to be able to work like that. Whereas those players are session players. Like they have the skills, but I did rely a lot on my orchestra background
Mm-hmm.
during doing those sessions where I had to be like a real player, like play with the
Mm-hmm.
band to a click track at a gazillion dollars an hour. Suddenly, I had had a lot of, when I was a classical player, I did have those chops, that kind of mindset and focus. I could do it, even though
Yeah.
I don't play guitar very well. But so I remember thinking, oh, thank God I have actually done this. I can focus, I can get this done, I can do this, even though I was petrified. Andy's like, yeah, man, we're gonna play live. It's gonna be great. I'm like, it's not gonna be great, Andy. I mean, but it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. So
It,
it was
it
fun.
turned out wonderful and amazing musicians that you have on this record. And I was looking at the
Mm.
next track, and we mentioned that um, Ellen, Mother Banjo, couldn't make it for the live show today. But if you look in the liner notes, you'll see that Ellen Stanley is actually singing some backing vocals on this next tune. My boyfriend is a genius. I love the title and love the song. And there's actually a video I found about that I want to make sure maybe we can talk about that too. But could you tell us a little bit about this song, and maybe since Ellen's not here, you can maybe mention how she and her husband got involved with this project.
Oh yes. So okay. Sorry. What was the question?
Oh,
What the song?
I'm
Okay.
curious. Like
Okay.
we're moving on to my boyfriend is a genius,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I'm really interested
Okay.
in both the
Yes.
song, like where the song came from, but then
Right.
just noticing that my co-host who couldn't be here today is going to be singing on this track made me really happy.
Ellen sings,
And I know our
Ellen sings
Patreon folks
backup.
will be happy to hear that too. So, oh well, speaking of which. We just got a little ping here from Mother Banjo.
Oh,
She
there
says,
she
"Hey
is.
friends,
Oh.
I'm at an
Ah.
undisclosed location, but if you look closely at the emojis, I see a Ferris wheel, a chicken leg, an ice cream cone, and a big top. I'm guessing the state fair.
That looks
Um,
fun.
but it really does. Hey, Ellen, we wish you were here, but we're so happy you chimed in, and what great timing, because we're about to feature a track that
Yeah.
features you.
Yes. So Ellen is on this track because Ellen and I had a little nightclub act with Ben Cook Phelps at Honey in
Ugh.
2010 to 2014, and she sang
R.I.P. to that
in the
venue, right?
show. I know, and she sang backup on these all these songs. So she when we recorded, I said, "Oh, Ellen, what you should like sing on this," and so she did. And this song is the very first song I ever wrote. I wrote this song in 1989, and it was my very first song. And I was still a classical musician at conservatory, and I was in a world where we were all incredibly full of ourselves. Basically, everyone who was there, myself included. I am no innocent in this attitude. So I wrote this song about my experience with there. Uh, they're insufferable. Graduate students are insufferable, especially on the East Coast at a conservatory. They're just horrible. We're all horrible. So I was sort of trying to date somebody, but I was not smart enough for him. So,
Oh no. What?
yeah, he was really
Oh,
smart. That's true, I wasn't. So, anyway,
well,
and he found life very I don't know, he was obnoxious, but so was I. But anyway, I wrote this, my first song ever, and then this is how I got all my gigs at the beginning in New York City. Everyone thought this song was hilarious. So it's still in the rotation, what can I say? So,
nice.
and,
It
I sorry, go ahead.
No,
Oh,
I was just gonna I was just gonna get ready to play it, but anything
yeah.
else you want to say about it?
It has a classical influence. I took the bass line is lifted from a Vivaldi Gloria, and it really rocks. And I thought, I'm going to play this in a bar and see if people will shut up and listen to me. And they did. They really dug the bass line. I was like, classical music.
I love that you're putting so much of that in there and
I
had that
am.
feeling. Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Well, why don't we give it a spin? This
Okay.
is Julia Douglas. My boyfriend is a genius here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
My boyfriend, oh, he's a genius. It's hard for him to be in this world. I'm lucky just to be his girl, to be girlfriend of a genius. Genius. My boyfriend, he likes me around because I'm funny. I'm the clown. I make him laugh. I make him smile. I make him laugh. I make him smile. I make him genius. My boyfriend is a My boyfriend, his friends all revere him. It's a thrill just to be near him, to be close by his side, to be along just for the ride, to be in circles of a genius. My boyfriend is a My boyfriend is sometimes unkind to me, but that's because he's mine. You see, he's special. He is brilliant. He is smarter than everyone else. It's hard for him. He gets so bored to socialize. It's such a chore. He is different. He's unique. He belongs to the minds elite 'cause he's a My boyfriend, oh, he's a
Oh, yeah. Julia Douglas, my boyfriend, is a genius here on the back catalog listening party. And Joe saying that, so glad you pointed out the bass line. This is really an amazing arrangement. Great lyrics. Kind of distracted me at first, the first time around, but then listening for that classical nod that you put in there, which is fantastic. Yeah, and it sounded so great. And while we were, I just want to point this out, while we were listening to that track, Ellen texted me a photo of the two of you. I believe you're muted there, Julia. Julia, unfortunately, I can't hear you.
I
There we
am
go.
unmuted. Yes, there we are. Look
Nice.
how cold it was. We're so bundled up. Yes, there we
So is
are.
this at Ellen's Women Folk station, KFAI? Is that what I'm seeing
It
something
must
in
have
the
been.
background?
It
That's
must have been the
fantastic.
show.
So I thought that was great. We could bring
That's
Ellen
great
into the
picture.
show in another way here. And thanks for that, Ellen.
Oh, I just
And
have to say, the sorry to interrupt you, but the vocals were recorded by the great Steve Adabo,
mm,
who did Suzanne Vega and Sean Colvin and Bob Dylan, all these amazing people, Grammy winner. And I recorded those vocals with him in New York City at Shelter Island Sound. So
oh, nice.
just,
Oh,
just so
that's
you
a
know.
that's the kind of tidbits that you only get here at the back catalog listening party
Well, what
these
what
days.
happened was we had done a recording of just a guitar and vocals, and I'd always wanted just to put a band on there, and then when I was at the library with these guys and that cold week, we finished early. We still had some studio time left, and then I just said, "Hey fellas, do you mind like putting some playing on this? Like just do whatever you want. I don't even care, because I've already paid for the time." And so they
Mhm.
just like they had nothing else to do, and they're like, "Yeah, all right." So that's what they did. That's why I'm laughing because it wasn't even planned, and they just went nuts.
Yeah, I was
I'm
going to
like,
ask
"Yeah,
about that if that was yeah, because there's all kinds of interesting
oh,
sounds
I
and things
know, it's
happening.
hysterical." Yeah, I
I
know.
love it. Well, it really
It,
fits this kind of like, I don't know, almost like snarky revenge song
does, doesn't it?
kind of vibe.
It's all these men, these guys just are going for it.
Yeah. Well, I
They
love
were lovely.
Jocelyn's remark here. She says, "Brilliant, you,
Oh,
not
well,
him."
thank you very much. Thank
That's a
you.
good one. Um, yeah, I love it. I love it. What fun this is to get into these, the details of some of these things, and to think that that was your first ever song, too,
Oh,
and
I
that
know.
it.
I thought it was amazing. I'm like, oh, this is a piece of cake. What's so hard? But then I wrote like 4 million horrible songs after that. So I got lucky. Got lucky the first time.
Well,
All in one, like. Oh.
and did you were you just sitting on that song then for all those years? I know you had
No,
albums
no.
before this one.
No, it was on that song. Actually, it was on a couple other albums. My first album, more of a rock and roll version, and then
Okay.
that's called "Fetish for the Underdog." That's like a more pop rock record. That was my first record, and then my third record I did with Steve Adabo, hardly any instruments at all, and then we did that guitar vocal, and that's all the money we had. So so we were like, wow, I wish we could have drums. Well, we can't. So,
Yeah.
but it was a great vocal. I mean, Steve Adamo's a legend and a lovely man. So, I'd always been hankering to kind of fill out that arrangement, and finally I did. At the library in Minneapolis that
Yeah,
one night.
that was fantastic. I loved the kind of like improvisational things that were
Isn't it
happening
crazy?
there.
It's so
It,
jazzy. It's like nuts. I mean, I don't ever do stuff like that. Like people who had heard me sing that song forever were like, what's with that arrangement?" I'm like, I don't know. That's just what they did. I'm like, whatever. I
that's
think it
awesome.
worked.
And if you liked what you're hearing, like I mentioned, you can get the EP on Bandcamp. But if you want a physical version, Julia has some at her house, and I bet you'd be willing to sign a copy if someone wanted a signature. Is that right?
Oh, are you kidding? I'd be so happy. Yeah,
All right.
here it is.
There you go. So, what you do is go to Bandcamp, and they have a kind of set your own price situation there. You can put in whatever you want. You can put in $10 or more, and then just leave your address for Julia in the notes field, and she will mail you a copy of that CD. And I recommend it because not only are you going to get this high fidelity music, but you get all those wonderful lyrics, and you also get the liner notes and can see who's on it and everything like that. So fantastic. But I want to make sure we get into at least one more song. But before we do, I want to just take a brief moment here to thank the folks that keep this party going every week. Ellen and I started this 3 years ago. We're 175 or 74 and a half episodes into this experiment, and we couldn't do it without our Patreon community. We were thinking it would just be something we do while everything was closed, and then once everything opened up, we would just move back into our normal gigging lives and stuff. But there was a group of people that said, no, keep doing this. We love listening to records together. We love hearing about songwriting and recording and production and all that stuff. And it's really has been a special thing for both Ellen and I. And we're so excited that these folks decided to join our Patreon and help us keep the lights on here. So I want to give a big shout out to Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, the Homestead Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, David, Sarah C., CJ, and Wiley. And maybe you. We want to thank you so much for being part of this Patreon community. For those who are in our Patreon community, you probably know this, but we just got these pint glasses. Mine is empty now. It's got our logo on it, and our hope was that these could be like a physical way that we can kind of connect every week, whether you have a beer or just a glass of water in there. We have like some physical connection with each other, and we'll be mailing those out very soon. We sent an email to everybody, and we'd love to get your responses so we can get your address and mail those out. And if you want to get one of these fancy pint glasses and join the party, you can as well. Just head on over to patreon.com/back catalog listening party, and I'll put a link in the comments as well. But most of all, thank you for being here and listening and hanging out with Julia. This is so much fun, and I want to make sure, again, we get at least to one more song. And we have the next song we have lined up is a song called No Questions Asked. Is there anything you want to say about this one before we give it a spin?
This one was inspired by I don't know. It's another sad song, but it's I think my friends' kids were all learning to drive, and my friends were losing it, and so I kind of went down a dark side. I was sort of thinking about that, and then I remembered my own dad when I was a teenager. I think he said something like, if I was ever stuck somewhere at a party, no matter what time it was,
Mm-hmm.
he would come get me. And this was like in the 70s. This was
Oh,
Parents were stricter back then. Like now, now it's different. I was just so touched by that. I didn't even know what he's talking about. I was like, what? Oh, okay. And now I realize, how amazing that was. So he was like,
yeah.
I'll come get you. Because, if I was stuck somewhere at a party at 2 a.m, I would feel like I would get yelled at. Like, why are you in that situation?
Right, right, right.
Like, and he's like, it's okay. Like you won't get in trouble is basically what he was saying, which was so, I was like, huh? So I was always touched by that. I mean, I never was in trouble and I never called him, but I was a bit of a goody goody. But so I used that as a reference, like a father wishing he had said that to his son, and he didn't, sadly, tragically. So now the father says this over and over. The father went mad. He went kind of crazy. So anyway, that's the song. So
All right.
there you go. Have a great
Let's-
weekend, everyone. What can I say?
Julia Douglas, No Questions Asked, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
When the driver is hammered and you find you're 2 hours away, no questions asked, I'll come get you. He meant to say to his son that day. He says it when he visits, over and over until dark. It's pretty there where he lays flowers, so pretty you think that you were in a park, no questions asked. No questions asked. No questions asked. No questions asked. He says it all the time now, under his breath again and again. If you're walking by, you would swear, yeah, you would swear that you can't hear him say no questions asked. No questions asked. No questions asked. No questions asked. Friday evenings round town now. Teenagers all roll their eyes. Fathers lay the law down, and mothers start to cry. No questions asked. 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 No questions asked.
Julia Douglas, no questions asked here on the back catalog listening party. We have been revisiting Julia's 2014 release, Black Watch Kilt. And this has been just a delightful hour, Julia. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me and our friends out at the party. Joni says a beautiful memory of your dad. And she also says, as a mom of teens, this one has me in tears. And my kids aren't at driving age yet, but I'm already planning on saying that as much as I can after hearing that. You know, the power of these types of stories really can be a cautionary tale. So maybe there's some folks that needed to hear that today. And it's a beautiful song and part of just a beautiful collection of music. And thanks again for hanging out with me today, Julia.
Oh, well, my pleasure. It's an honor to be on here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a really good
Yeah,
time.
well, I know again on behalf of my co-host Ellen Stanley, she would have loved to have been here for this episode. She was here. She popped in from an undisclosed location.
I
And you could,
know.
and
I
we
hope
heard
she goes
her.
on the big slide. The big
Yeah,
slide. She's got
the
to go down the
potato
big slide.
sacks.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't from the great state of Minnesota, our state fair is a big deal for us here,
It is.
and it actually is quite a big state fair as well. But we want to thank everybody for hanging out with us today. Connie says, "What a terrific show! Thanks." And Chris says, "Thanks, Julia, for being part of the Back Catalog Listening Party family. You're definitely part of the family now." And Joni says, "Thank you, Julia. You are wonderful. Super show. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Joni. Thank you all for being here. This is why we do it. It's really about community. It's about people getting together. As Julia joked about, not having any friends and, being isolated and things like that. This is the cure. Music is the cure. Whether you start a band or hire people for your recording or just listen to music together every week here at the Back Catalog Listening Party. Music brings us together. I really believe in it, in the power of that. And again, just one more time, thank you, Julia, for sharing your music with us today.
Thank you.
All right, and everybody else out there, if you like this show, make sure you give it a thumbs up on YouTube, because then more people will get notified that Julia's episode should be in their feed as well. It kind of helps the algorithms along. And then if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should subscribe, because every week we get together with another guest and we listen to music off their back catalog, and get to just revisit all this wonderful music. And so until next week, we hope you all have a wonderful week full of music and friends and family. And until next time, cheers, and we'll see you next Friday here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Take care.